was it 2 years ago, I guess, when we did the first webinar. And at the graduate, when we started doing webinars, it was the first graduate, Ask the Graduate webinar. And I fell in love with her. She is an amazing person, and she just exudes a quality that is, I think, rare and very special in terms of her perception on life and how she approached things. So it was really a great experience. And when we were thinking about this workshop and connections, I thought, this is a person that, see, I've got goosebumps right now. This is a person that you just immediately feel a connection with. So I want to tell you a little bit about Deni, and hold on. So she sent me a couple of quotes that she really liked, and I'm going to start with that. Each one of us has the power and the responsibility to change the world, and that's what all of you are doing as well. Deni Elliott holds the endowed Poynter Jameson Chair in Media Ethics and Press Policy at the University of South Florida. She's also the chair of the Department of Journalism and Media Studies and is the ombudsperson for the St. Petersburg campus. She is the coordinating principal investigator on a national ethics project, and that's a 5-year examination of how ethics are taught at 4,700 U.S. colleges and universities. Deni is a member of our graduate council. She is the chairperson for the first ever Guiding Eyes for the Blind graduate continuing education seminar that will be held in Rye in April. Deni has been a guide dog user since 2000. Her current partner, Koala, is a 2-year-old black lab and her second Guiding Eyes for the Blind dog. And with that, I would like to introduce Deni Elliott and Koala.
Okay, I know where to find everything. There you go. If you had any doubts, I'm legal, not total. I have been dealing with reduced vision from the time I was young, but became permanently legally blind as of 2000, and a guide dog user at that point. I don't think we're happy with the microphones the way they are, just because of the feedback. You want me to do something? I'm fine? Okay, oh good, thank you for fixing things. Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank Linda for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all face to face. I mean, you're the most fabulous, important people. I've written about you in my blogs and columns, and you do change the world in so many ways. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm humbled to be here. And thank you, Michelle, for putting together the PowerPoint that you'll be seeing tonight and for helping run it. As I told her a few minutes ago, I have had people sort of put the pictures together for me before, and I've had people sort of advance them for me before, but never somebody who really knew both sides of it. So it's really, really wonderful for me. So thank you so much for the help and support in doing this. I guess, yes. Koala and I have been working together for 5 weeks. So, and she has, I guess what I'm saying is that our time together this evening is going to be, kind of a test for her. We took a flight at 5:20 this morning from Tampa. And so all in all, it's been a long day for a young dog. And so we will do what we can to help her get through the evening. If she begins to get vocal, which she might, I will slide her back this way, hoping that less stimulus will sort of help her relax. Imagine over years growing into a perfect symbiotic relationship. Shoulder to shoulder, Guiding Eyes Alberta, and I stepped out in unison, so coordinated that it felt to me like we were interlocking puzzle pieces. In fact, friends called us Denberta. Buckle the harness, and we were one. And then in April, a friend told me that Alberta's right eye looked a little red. And for the first week, it was conjunctivitis, and the second week it was conjunctivitis. And the third week, my vet very delicately said, you know, considering your vision, maybe you're not like getting it in the eye. And so after another 5 days of supervised eye dropping, we saw ophthalmologist one who kind of floored me by saying, yeah, I see a tumor at 6 o'clock in the right eye. And, but he said, I think that laser surgery, you know, might take care of this. So the next day, ophthalmologist number 2 said, no, the tumor has invaded the entire eye, and she's going to lose her eye. And I guess I'd like to say that Guiding Eyes was with me every step through that awful experience in April and May, just as they were with me through every step in Alberta and I becoming a team. And wounds heal. Alberta and I are both better than we would have been because of our 3 years together. She lost her right eye, but she is living the good life in Montana with my nephew and his wife and their dog on 30 acres up against 1 million acres of national forest. It's not a bad life, trust me. Although she's actually never had a winter there yet, so we'll see. She's loved her summers there, but she's never had a winter there. And I'm braver now, and am able to open my heart to Guiding Eyes koala. So the title of this talk, 6 legs, 2 heads, 2 eyes, and 1 goal, is meant to kind of catch the paradox. Sorry, I'm a philosopher. To catch the paradox of being independent with the help of another being. It's a really difficult concept, I think, to put words around, and a really difficult concept to help anybody who hasn't been in the situation sort of get it. But I know you guys do, so that's why it's so wonderful to do this here tonight. I'll be talking a lot about my own experience, about some research that shows us what actually we already know, that among all of the species in the world, that dogs have a unique, close, and connected relationship with us. And then when you add in, $50,000 or so worth of genetics, breeding, puppy raising, training, we end up with the incredible relationships that we're able to create here at Guiding Eyes. My talk tonight is divided into 3 segments: time and transition, the right dog for the right job, and power and responsibility. And even if it sounds that way, it's really not a 3-hour seminar. It's a lot of pictures and a little talk. And as we go through, I also would like to sort of point out that the last time I saw myself clearly was about 20 years ago, which is really terrific, because that's the visualization I have, and it never has to change. So I would really appreciate if you would continue, help me continue with my fantasy of thinking that I look the way that I think I did. Okay, let's go to the first slide, please. This talk tonight is dedicated to Alberta's first family. This is a picture of Lisa and George McMain and their kids, Owen and Shay, across the street from my house. I live on a park on Tampa Bay in St. Petersburg, Florida. And Alberta had a wonderful, it's always had a wonderful time with the McMains. Shay, their daughter, is actually considering coming to college in Florida to do marine sciences, and I am doing my best to encourage her by starting a puppy raising club on our campus. But I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so the first section is time and transition. As you know, I'm a college professor. The next picture is of me at convocation in August. That's where we gather all the freshmen together, and we get to dress up in our regalia. And so I don't often get to show people a picture of that, but there it is. But this was at the end of very 4 long months of being between guide dogs. I've used a white cane off and on since the 80s, and as I said, a guide dog user since 2000. But until the summer, the longest I'd been without a dog since 2000 was about 6 weeks, and so it was really horrific. One of the things that I've been amazed to learn, and you probably already know, is that there are like 10,000 guide dog users in the United States. I think, really? Is that it? Are you serious? And I fly a lot with Delta Airlines. I'm Diamond, which means I spend way too much time on those airplanes. But if I could tell you the number of times that business travelers, other business travelers, and flight attendants have said to me, "Oh, I've never had a guide dog on a flight before. I think these people don't get out much." I, and it's only about 2% of blind adults who are guide dog users, which again just sort of surprises me. I admit when I first found out that my eyesight wasn't going to improve, and there were no glasses they could give me, and no surgeries, and nothing they could do to make things better. My first thought wasn't, "Oh, good, I get a guide dog," but it followed really pretty quickly because as I thought about how to continue having my terrific life, and it was progressively failing vision. Sorry, she's sort of crawling this way. I will stop her eventually. Um, Following a cane just wasn't an option for me. So the next picture is a picture of Alberta and me at the office. I'll tell you one of the things. Although I love both of my guiding eyes dogs, but moving from a white dog to a black dog has made a total change in outfits. Well, you do the same thing with puppies, right? I mean, you've got to dress to match your dog, or at least to match the dog hair that they leave on your clothes, right? But what I'm going to do is I did bring some props. I'm going to introduce you to my 3 favorite canes out of my collection of 5. I'd like to point out this is this cane I call my party cane, or it's also my date left me at the party cane, because it's small enough it folds up easily to fit in my purse. So if I'm out, I can kind of like pretend I'm sighted if I want to do that. But I have the cane nearby so I can actually sort of make my way out to the curb and get a taxi. But it's the party cane because it's short, it's small. It means that I'm not going to trip on anything that's really in right. I'm not going to hit over that tray with the dirty glasses, that one. But at the same time, it also means that people aren't going to trip over me. So this is short party cane. Okay. This is everyday cane. Nice. It has a decent radius. It's a little bigger, a little wider. The ball makes all the difference. I mean, I live in this old Florida neighborhood about a mile from my office. And, well, actually, I can't walk from there to my office with the cane because the cane still would stick and stuff. But, in terms of getting across campus, with uneven sidewalks and stuff, the fact that the ball rolls means that I, sort of pitch over forward fewer times. And so this is a really kind of good everyday cane. And, lets me know where things are. Last of all, part of the reason I'm doing this is a puppy raiser not long ago said, "God, I didn't realize that people had different canes." I wish they came in designer colors, but yeah. All right, this cane. Meet Killer Cane. It's called Killer Cane because I've taken down more than one toddler going through the airport. It's a cane that gets people out of my way when I'm trying to make my way to a gate in time. You also cannot use the killer cane if some nice person from Delta Airlines is trying to lead you, because obviously you take them down as well. Not a good cane. But it really does help when I'm in a hurry and trying to get, somewhere. And eventually somebody says, oh my God, can I help you please before you kill somebody else? So I've traded in Canes, thank God, one more time, for a guide dog that's one size fits all. I'm bigger with a guide dog now, in that I'm like, when I think of my size, I'm one dog long, and I'm a dog and a person wide, and that's sort of my universe in terms of rotation and where I need to make sense of my world. But my sensory arc has gone from the sweep of that cane, even from, like the killer cane, the big long one, has gone from that to as far as a dog can see and hear and sense. My my ability, my range is now based on the amazing abilities that our dogs have. She's my radar. She responds to stimuli before it could even register for me. A lot of times she steers me around stuff that I wouldn't even know about if it weren't for friends saying, "Oh my God, do you know what this dog just did?" I go, "No," but it just happens, and it happens so easily after a while that I'll I'm always a little late, that I'll race from my office to, the chancellor's office or something for a meeting. And so I get across campus and I get dog settled under the table, give her a cookie, thank her. And I went, yeah, I don't remember walking here, I mean, no, because, well, Alberta, who I called my furry GPS, she learned to the bank, to the chancellor's office, to the library. We're going to the dean now. Let's go home. And, I mean, it was great. I could give her a goal, a destination, and it wasn't long before she knew how to get there. The next series of pictures are actually not about dogs working. They're about dogs having fun. And this is, again, a puppy raiser once said, one of the reasons it's so hard for us to give them up is we know they're not going to have any fun. What? What? This is a picture of Alberta and me, actually in Montana last spring, just before she was diagnosed. We were out visiting there, and she just loved playing in the snow in April. Um, she Interesting thing about Alberta, she always knew when she was being photographed, and she would cock her head and smile. So guide dogs do have fun. The next picture is her on a yacht with me. Although she does get bored. This was actually at my nephew's wedding, and as nobody had invited her to dance, she decided to just get up on the chair and take a nap. The next three pictures are in the bay, in the cove, right out in front of my house. In our 3 years together, Alberta and I played as intensely as we worked. She's still very, very much alive and active, but she's a very intense dog. What a surprise that she was matched with me. Um, but and I thought, paddleboarding, what a great thing. She can swim, I can paddleboard. We're nearby, we're not going to get in trouble. And so this is the instructor's series of pictures where we were sort of, Albert and I were figuring it out for the first time. So the next slide shows her giving me a kiss for luck as I'm trying to stand up. And then finally, I'm up. And I when I said that, I thought this was going to be great exercise for both of us. So I turned out to be half right. Um, she, despite, I'm not sure she looks too happy in this particular photo, but she very quickly learned to think this was a pretty nice thing to do. She gets to sit in front. I do all the work. And I had an extra 52 pounds of dog on the paddleboard. So I got lots of exercise. Her, not so much. By the way, when Koala's puppy raiser saw I'm not even sure where she came across the paddleboard pictures, but when she saw those, she said, Deni, Koala needs to wear her life jacket if she's going to be out on the water. And I thought, once a mom, always a mom. And of course, when we're anywhere, like outside of knee height water, I do have her life jacket, and she will wear her life jacket. She hasn't learned to paddleboard yet, though. But and obviously we were like not exactly alone in a hurricane. Um, the next picture is a picture of Alberta and me doing rally. I don't know how many of you are familiar with rally, the dog sport. Um, it There was just something about her. Now, I really should point out that before I became a guide dog user, I had been involved with dogs for a lot of my life, and I know, including doing agility competition and work like that before I lost significant vision. And so I thought, boy, this might be a good rally dog. And I wanted to do something fun with Alberta that would give her a chance to interact with me without being responsible for me. And it really was fun for her. I mean, it took her a couple of weeks to realize that she wasn't responsible to keep me from running into walls. But I used to refer to our Wednesday night rally practice as Alberta's Bowling League. Because for those of you who have done rally practice, the way it works is, everyone gathers and the handler and dog go through the signs, go through the I think there's 16 signs. And then you come back and sit down. It's like kind of like bowling a frame, and then you go back and sit down, hang out with your friends, chat, drink beer, whatever. You'll see that there are three of us in the ring, though. The other person is my sighted guide, Jan, and Jan is quite an experienced dog handler, dog trainer, and rally and agility competitor. And once Alberta realized that she could not concentrate on keeping me out of trouble, but just have fun, oh, she just loved it. I mean, she would leap through the fast, and just spin, to do turns. And we can go to the next slide. There's a second slide of rally, I think. Um, and as far as I know, Alberta was the first guide dog to complete the AKC rally title, Rally Advanced Excellent, the top title, whatever it is, with a blind handler and a sighted guide. Jan actually had the hardest work for all of us because she had to keep me from running in walls, read the signs to me, tell me how to navigate so that I didn't trip over the obstacles, and keep out of the way of the judge when we were competing. And she needed to stay close enough to me so that I could follow her lead, or touch her shoulder if when I got disoriented. Well, Alberta was following my lead. So, I mean, she had a pretty complicated job. We actually usually finished in the ribbons. Alberta, as I said, loved it. It was great fun. And when we didn't, it was because of handler error. It's for those of you who haven't done rally, it's amazing how difficult it is to walk backwards, count to 3, and keep your dog with you. Just try it. Okay, next section is the right dog for the right job. The first picture in this section is when Jim Gardner brought me Koala on September 7th of this year. When I found out when Jim was coming with Koala, poor Jim, he hadn't met me yet, and I said, okay, I will pour the wine and light the candles. There, in a lot of ways, meeting a guide dog is like an arranged marriage. I mean, you both know your job, you just never done it together. So what it's all about is learning that connection, is learning how to work as a team. And after 5 weeks, we're certainly better than we were, the first couple of weeks, but we still have a while to go. But she was so good on the plane today. I was proud of her. And learning a new dog is definitely learning a new dog. First of all, I realized that even though I was here for action with Alberta and then, home training after, I'd completely forgotten how to walk through a door with the hinges on the left. Yeah, that's the one we've got to spin. I knew how to do this stuff. I have no idea how Alberta and I did it by the end. I'm probably wrong, but somehow she and I made it through. But now suddenly I have a dog who knows all the rules and I don't. So it took a while to do that. And actually, after 2 days, when I was utterly exhausted of home training, I thought, what must this dog be going through? When I worked with Alberta here in action, she met me, but she knew all the routes. She knew the school, she knew the trainers, and instead, this poor little girl, Jim brings her down to me in St. Petersburg, Florida, spends an hour with us and then just leaves her with me. And I'm sure she's saying, what the hell? I didn't sign up for this. So she, I was, I had a lot of empathy for her, in those first weeks. I just can't imagine what it must have been for her going through that. But it was interesting because when Graham Buck brought Alberta to me in my dorm room here when I first met Alberta, Alberta literally leapt into my arms. And as you see in the picture here, when Jim brought Koala to me, she wouldn't look at me for the first half hour. It wasn't long before I was referring to Koala here as my German Shepherd and Labrador clothes. She was very much a one-person dog. She knew Jim, and she, had some kind of relationship with him, and she certainly was not going to entertain anybody else. And I was impressed. I just thought, good for you, girl. You know, um, I knew that when she and I bonded, that we would have the deepest bond that I've ever had with a dog, and we do. It's pretty terrific. And finally, we did graduate. That's the next picture. Koala is my fourth guide dog and my second from Guiding Eyes. So I'll just very quickly go through the brief history with you. The first dog that I had, as the next picture, was a golden retriever named Orielle. I refer to her as my minivan. She was not real fast, but dependable, And then when she retired, the next picture, it was time for a German Shepherd. Yeah, that's the baby Wiley picture. I can always tell. Yeah, yeah. Um, the next picture is good too. With Wiley. Wiley, the German Shepherd, was sleek and fast and not well suited to be a guide dog. He he knew his job. He did his duty. He was so German about that, but he didn't like it. After 5 years of working with me, he had a career change, and he's now he's working with a vet with PTSD, and they're perfect for each other. They're exactly what they need. I also have to admit that Wiley was a bit of a chauvinist, which I had never experienced with a dog before. He worked so much better with a man than with a woman, and I said, okay, I'm not going to get into the politics of it all. I respect that. So the next picture is with Alberta. So in the months between me being accepted at Guiding Eyes and coming here, I said goodbye to Wiley and went through the Guiding Eyes admission process, got accepted. And then for the 2 months or 6 weeks, I guess, that I waited to come here, I must have sent about an email a day, just wanting to make sure that everybody knew something more about me. I just wanted them to find my perfect dog. It was like Match.com, only one-sided, right? Because people here didn't write back, but at least they didn't say, "Oh my God, forget it, lady." We're not. But imagine my surprise to find out that the trainers had decided about January that Alberta and I were the perfect match for each other, and so I was just kind of keeping myself amused for those 6 weeks. The next picture shows Alberta and me training. It was really cold in March. In fact, I suggested to Graham that perhaps he was trying to stress me out as much as he could, put this Florida girl through as much cold weather, and just to see what would happen, how I would treat a dog when I was like totally incapable of dealing with anything more. I did okay, I guess. But I was nervous about coming here and meeting and coming to guide dog school, Guiding Eyes, and I was nervous about being around a bunch of blind people. I'd never been around a bunch of blind people. And when you've got kind of progressively worsening sight, people just kind of expect that you can still see stuff. And it was a lot easier for me to pretend that I could just see stuff than to try to deal with the reality, with my reality of being blind. When I first arrived here, I mean, it was really chaos. I mean, there were literally people running into each other in the hall. And anyway, but a trainer, but hey, it happens. If you put 12 blind people together, what do you expect? But one of the, my trainer one of the trainers led me into my room and closed the door, handed me a key, and just gave me a tour of the room. Here's the closet. There's the bathroom. There's a light switch and the intercom switch right around the corner there. And I just kind of stood there, in awe. I had never had anybody describe a room to me before. And I thought, you know, this really isn't that hard. I could ask people to do this. It just had never occurred to me. And I actually found out that I really like my blind community. I like being around other people who had similar experiences. For the record, among sighted people, one of the weirdest things you can ask somebody who's not really sighted is, what do you see? Because it's like, sort of compared to what? I know, because I kind of have memories of what sort of normal vision was like, and I assume that's what you guys have, but realistically, everybody is looking at things out of their own head in their own way, and it just doesn't work. But when I was with these other folks, just being able to talk about, okay, I'm total. Wow, what's that like? Well, I've been blind from birth, so here's how I learned so much. Talking to other people who had slivers of vision or smudges of vision. I have gray and black blotches all over my vision. And so just being able to talk like that and to sort of understand, oh, okay, that's your experience. I remember one night at dinner, there were 6 of us sitting around the table with dogs, of course, tucked or not tucked underneath us. And one of the folks at the table said, does anyone know where the oil and vinegar is? And it was just sort of interesting because, like, in unison, everyone kind of put their silverware down and just started, reaching out beyond our plate areas. And somebody says, oh, I got hand sanitizer, milk, and anyway, and it was just fun. And eventually somebody said, I found it, and it got passed down to the right person. So, you build community, and the more communities I build, more different kinds of communities, the bigger my view of the world. Let's go to the next one just for contrast, and that's Koala and I working. It was hot in Florida. When Alberta had her sudden retirement in May, I kind of hoped that there was somebody sitting in the kennel just waiting for me to appear, and of course it turned out not to be that way. The guiding eyes trainers knew me too well. They had to, I think, have a talk with everybody in the kennel and everybody coming through in for training and all the puppy raisers and say, okay, can we find somebody who can stand to do this kind of life? So Koala is not just smarter than the average bear, but she's has an energy not the same as Alberta. She's not intense. She's a real gentle soul, cautious. She likes to sort of check things out. But she's also up for adventure. It's like when she says, oh, okay, so this is what it is. Let's do it. And that's a certain kind of personality. And I'm just so lucky that Guiding Eyes keeps finding me the right dogs. But, okay, a little bit of research. Our dogs generalize. I know that's not standard dog research fare. But if they didn't generalize, then when Jim brought Koala down to Florida to me, she would have had to learn what it meant to go off every curb and up every curb and down every step and up every step and around every corner. But she already knew all of that. She knew what curb meant, and she knew what right meant, and she knew how to generalize. One of the things that that makes Koala really fun is she has these epiphanies. She said suddenly, like, oh my God, I get it. One of my favorite I have a couple of off-list tasks that I have my dogs do. One of them is find the trash can. When the dog poops and I'm standing there with the bag, I don't want to just stand there with the bag or carrying the bag, for the rest of the mile that I'm walking. So one of the things I teach my dogs early on is find a trash can. It took her about a week to sort of understand, and God knows how dogs figure out what human trash can means, but to find a trash can wherever we are outside. And so it's not the same trash can because it's not the same place that she decides she wants to poop. And it could be, on the way home from school. It could be in the park across the street. And she is so funny because if she's on harness, she'll almost pull me over trying to get me to the trash can she's found, and she just hops in place. Here it is, Mom. Here it is. If she's off harness, so like if we're playing in the park, or she'll drag me over to the trash can and just throw her front paws up on the trash can and says, "Here it is." So I'm very pleased with that. Has anyone ever heard of the marshmallow test? Think kids. Okay. Very briefly, you take a 2-3-year-old kid, stick them in a room with a marshmallow on a plate, and the tester says, "This is your marshmallow, but if you don't eat it until I get back, then I'll give you another one." It's a whole a series of research on delayed gratification. When Alberta been with me for about 4 weeks, I thought, I wonder how they are on delayed gratification. And so a graduate student and I decided to do a little test. Let's go to the first marshmallow picture. We put Alberta in the hall in harness, which would help her with some restraint, one would hope, and a bowl full of cookies. And I just said, "Don't touch, stay." And I turned around, walked into my office, and closed the door. And a graduate student was taking pictures outside, or rather, from the inside of a window. So she was, from her point of view, alone in the hall with this bowl of cookies. Let's go to the next one, please. Alberta distracted herself the way that children do. I mean, if you go to the YouTube videos on kids doing marshmallow test, they turn away, they sing songs, they do all sorts of things to distract themselves from the fact that they're, that the marshmallow is sitting there. And then the third picture, oh, it came so close. And then she sort of took a deep breath. Let's go to the fourth picture. Lifted her head, shut her eyes, shook her head. And my graduate student and I decided 5 minutes was a good test. And then, so these were over a period of 5 minutes, and there were others. But at the end of 5 minutes, she got lots of cookies. No, not the whole bowl. I know you guys wouldn't have liked that. All right, and so before we go to the next pictures, I realized last week that it was about Koala had been with me for about the same length of time. So called in a graduate student and said, "Hey, let's do this with Koala." And before we started, I was getting the bowl ready with the cookies and so on. Koala, although she was all dressed in harness and under restraint, one would hope, was bouncing around the office, leaping, jumping up. "Oh my God, cookies! Come on, can I have those cookies? Oh, please, just one cookie." My graduate student with a good sense of understatement said, "This is not going to go well." So once again, okay, let's go to the next picture. So once again, we put Koala in the hall. I told her to don't touch, stay. I went back in my office, closed the door, and graduate student is taking pictures through a window. Let's go to the next picture. And let's go to the next picture. After Koala sort of looked back to see where I'd gone and say, "Are you kidding me?" She sat there for 5 minutes. She didn't turn away. She didn't raise her head. She didn't have any angst. She just sat there. And she got more cookies, I have to admit. But one of the things I do with my ethics classes, and that's what I teach, is I ask my students to ask, who's more ethical, the person who has to work really, really hard to be good, or the person for whom it comes naturally? And it really is a great discussion. Try it, with your significant other sometime. But be careful the context when you raise the conversation. But I just found that so interesting. 2 dogs, obviously both really good at delayed gratification, but 2 very, very different styles. In some ways, dogs' intelligence is very much like ours, and in some ways, it's really very different. Some of you may know about the recent MRI studies that show two very important things. One is that dogs will voluntarily get in an MRI machine and lay perfectly still for 10 minutes of of all that banging, clanging, which shows that they're very different from most of us. But what the studies have also shown is that dogs recognize the content of what we say as well as the as what's being said. For a long time, people say, "Oh, it's the tone of voice." So you can say, "Oh, you're an idiot," and the dog is just as happy as if you say "good dog." No, they know what those words mean. Other studies have shown that given the choice, dogs would rather be with their people than with a toy. Duh. Brian Hare, a Duke cognitive psychologist, has a wonderful book called The Genius of Dogs. I highly recommend it. Richard Sheldrake, who some of you may know, did some admittedly controversial research that seemed to show that some dogs really have a telepathic connection with their owners in terms of being able to know when they're coming home, similar to what we call pack awareness in wolves. But regardless of the sixth sense, we know that our dogs have capabilities that are far beyond us. Their field of vision is about 250 degrees over the normal 190 for normally sighted people. We know that dogs have 300 million olfactory receptors in their noses as compared to people's measly 6 million. I mean, huge difference. And they use 40% more of their brain to process smells than we do. So, I mean, the stuff that's coming in for them is what we call a difference of kind rather than a difference of degree. I mean, we cannot even imagine what dogs take in that way. Every one of us can tell stories that show that our dogs are better at reading us and manipulating us than we are at reading and manipulating them. So, well, some research shows that dogs have the comprehensive, well-trained, well-bred dogs have the comprehensive vocabulary and ability to delay gratification, as we've shown, of a 2-3-year-old child. I'd never allow a 2 or 3-year-old child to take me to work or take me across a busy airport. Remember the killer cane, right? It's not a good choice. So what's going on with dogs' intelligence is something really, really different from people, and that's why the two of us together make an independent single being. I mean, that's what's so extraordinary about being a guide dog user, is that it's not just nice to have my dog along. It's that because of her, I have like superhuman abilities. It's amazing. But dogs also really understand our limitations and can learn to compensate around them. The next picture is a picture of Alberta holding her paws out for me to drummel her nails, to file her nails down with an electric file. I mean, there's no way that I could do my dog's nails unless she completely cooperated with me. She'd never let anybody else do it, this, by the way. But all I had to do is say, let's do your nails, and she'd lay on her back and stick her foot out. So thank you guys for your good training. I'm sure that you did that. Last section, quickly, power and responsibility. The next picture is a picture of Alberta on the Bayboro Blonde Ale beer label. I'm going to end with my mantra that we each have the power and responsibility to change the world. And I tell my students that the first day of every ethics class I teach. I believe that each of us has our life's work of trying to figure out what that power and responsibility is. And I help sort of motivate students over a semester to start figuring it out. In addition, I offer you my mom's mantra. And that's that, yeah, we all have problems, and all the problems have gifts. The bigger the problem, the bigger the gifts. Visual impairment has been a problem for me, at a certain level throughout my life, and increasingly more as time goes on, and I lose more and more vision. But I have received an abundance of gifts that go along with that, and most particularly those brought by Guiding Eyes Dogs and Guiding Eyes for the Blind as a community, as an organization. Through my blindness, through the gift of Guiding Eyes, I've found ways of expressing power and responsibility in a number of communities. First, as Guiding Eyes for the Blind allowed Tampa Bay Times to follow me around when I came and to meet Alberta. And my chancellor decided to make Alberta the dog on our 50th anniversary special brew beer. A lot of people in the Tampa Bay area know about guide dogs and what it means for guide dogs to be in our community. You'll notice that Alberta is not wearing her harness on the beer label. We discussed that and we decided we didn't want people to think she was drinking on the job. The next picture, although it looks like there aren't very many people there, is one of our initial meetings of the Puppy Raiser Club. Southeast Guide Dogs is about 30 miles from our St. Petersburg campus. And one of the regional managers there, Kathy Saunders, and I have been working for about a year to create a puppy raising club at USF in St. Petersburg. And we now actually have 45 students who are signed up to be puppy raisers, puppy sitters, general members. I mean, anything to get their hands on the puppies. So that's now in process. And as Linda pointed out, I've been lucky enough to work with fabulous Guiding Eyes board leadership and Guiding Eyes Graduate Council to create our first ever grad continuing education seminar that will be happening in the spring. I know some of you will be coming to that. I'm sorry we couldn't have more of you coming to that. We've got 80 grads coming and 20 people on the waiting list on the grad side of the program, but we'll be repeating this. I mean, the first time around is going to be kind of a train wreck anyway. So, I mean, I spent a lot of the day today at Durrell Arrowwood where we're having it, and it's a gorgeous place, but we're learning a lot this first time around. I'm going to end with a couple of pictures of Alberta, just so that, after all of her hard work, you get to see that she really does have a nice retirement. The next picture is of Alberta and me this summer in Montana, which is when I saw her the first time after her surgery. We can go on to the next picture. Alberta will always be an important member of my family. Her first family prepared her for her life with me, and her last family is giving her a better life than I ever could if I had selfishly decided to keep her. One of the toughest things that week in July is about midweek when Alberta realized that she couldn't guide me. I mean, she lost her dominant right eye, and over the years we'd picked up ways for her to guide me off leash, off harness, off everything. I mean, just in terms of maneuvering around me. And when she tried to do that that week, we tripped over each other, and it was really very tough for her. Nevertheless, she was very unhappy when my nephew, loaded my luggage in the car and we didn't load her. He drove me to the airport, and his wife Casey went looking for the dogs, I guess sometime soon after that, and found them. We can go to the next picture. Mac the boxer, I like to think, was comforting Alberta. I know that our Guiding Eyes dogs deal with change and loss better than any human I know, but I also know from Alberta and from Koala that they never forget. They never forget their families, and they're always happy to see members of their family, whether it's first family, middle family, last family, wherever and whenever we can get together. One of the real gifts for me in being on grad council is that I get to bring my dogs back to school where they get to see all their favorite people. So that's been really very fun. And so the last photo is just here on campus, I think. We have one more. Michelle? That's all right. Okay, good. So I just want to thank you all very, very much for how you have, yeah, you too, baby. We're not quite done. Give me a minute. God. I just want to thank you for how you have chosen to share your power and responsibility. You have literally made it possible for hundreds and hundreds of people to be completely independent with 6 legs, 2 heads, 2 eyes, and a goal. Thank you. Thank you.
So let's see, are there any questions? Any comments? Yes. Betty.
Oh, well, Southeastern Guide Dogs is one of 12. I think we've got 12 guide dog schools in this country. And actually, the breeding lines between Southeast Guide Dogs and Guiding Eyes for the Blind. I mean, people puppies get passed around, or breeders get passed around. So the puppies are part of the Southeast Guide Dog school, just like you guys are part of Guiding Eyes for the Blind. And I mean, I'd have a Guiding Eyes for the Blind puppy raiser club on our campus if we had Guiding Eyes for the Blind puppies there. Don't we want a Florida chapter? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anybody else? Well, as I promised, this woman has a lot of heart and soul. And I'm extremely, okay, I can't finish. Grateful to you for coming and sharing this amazing story and your journey. And you're really, truly inspiring.
None of us would be here if it weren't for Guiding Eyes. So thank you, Linda.
And that's all of you. Okay, wait.
Don't cry.
Okay. It's the first time today. Okay, so Deni promised we trust her, right? For the,
I'm an ethics professor.
I know, that's why I thought we probably could trust you. So, okay, so we have a lot of great gifts, but I do need